Has Disney finally proven Super 7's biggest problem? Hello and welcome to Modern Toy Fair. I'm your host, Mr. Modern Toy Fair, and I'm joined by the founder of the Neck Illuminati, the delayer of shipments, the procrastinator of pre-orders, the perfect person, my YouTube wife, Mrs. Modern Toy Fair, Jarmar_games. But that's not all. I'm also joined by the man known as Bearded Spice, the man Modern Toy Fair has full custody over, the man Optimus Prime Pop Day refuses to stop, the Twilight Knight, the Master of Mac, the three pump jump of taking the show off the rails, Nate.
What's up?
How you guys doing?
You.
I am okay for the time being.
Considering what you've told me, that is an improvement.
Yes.
How about you, Jamar?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
All right.
How about you, Michael? How are you doing?
I am pretty good. I'm a little tired. I've been spending the day rearranging the studio, and I'm still not done. And as you can see, the background is like slightly more squished. I need to spread that out a little more because the new webcam, since last week when we went to record, it decided my old one wasn't good enough anymore. So had to change things up a bit. But
for the best.
You got to change around the studio today.
I did.
Yeah.
But Jarmar, did you change around the studio today?
I unfortunately did not. There was no spreading happening over here.
Okay. Did you work today?
Yeah, I did work. Yeah.
Me too. I didn't get a chance to rearrange the studio.
Today was my day off, and I went and filmed toy hunts for the first 4 hours, and then went and did this. I want to hear it. You guys act like doing toy hunts is so much work, and now you want to be like, oh.
Well, you're the one that's like, well, I had to do toy hunts today.
No, I'm just saying that I didn't say I had to. I said I spent the first 4 hours doing the toy hunts, and then I came home and I finished rearranging the studio, or tried to finish it, and did some laundry and a few other things. I'm sorry, I didn't need to give my to-do list to you, but that's not why we're here anyway.
No, we're not. Disney kept me from being able to rearrange the studio. And Disney has kept me from rearranging the studio for the past 3 years.
That's fair.
Man.
That's where I'm at.
Actually, you've changed your background a couple times in the past 3 years. So that's not completely true.
But this is not even set up right. Like, this isn't even right. Like, some of the stuff is just...
Decepticons with...
Yeah, but like you started off in your kitchen and then moved down in front of your Star Wars.
No. I started off in the living room.
That's right. And then you went to the kitchen, and then you went to the vintage collection wall, and now you're in front of your
then
shelves.
I was the other side. I was in front of my other stuff.
The Marvel Legends. Oh no, did we lose him?
I can't tell. Okay, no, there's no way that he's held that pose.
Yeah, he's not that steady. So yeah, I think we just lost.
I hope you're screaming.
Like,
what the fuck did I know?
I don't know. We were trying to figure that one out.
Everything just went away.
Oh.
It was like my setup was like, you know what? You don't have to take this. Let's go home.
True. You picked up your ball and you walked off.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's never happened before, so hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Fingers crossed. So this week we are going to be discussing some pretty major news. Obviously, since we record in advance, we're a little behind the 8 ball, and everyone else has already talked about it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So on what is now Robo Don't Know, because both of them have quit the Floosh, Veebs did his interview, as he always does, with Brian Flynn from Super7, and they dropped some major news. Not so great news. And that is that Super7 and Disney have ended their relationship. And based on just some of the things he said, because he said that they did not have the same expectations for some of the toy lines they were doing, and they couldn't quite see eye to eye on some things. And he was pretty vague, obviously, because he doesn't want to put out the dirty laundry too much, especially because he's very optimistic that he can win them back at some point and work with them again in the future. But to me, it sounds like Disney was upset and was like, no, we're good. So let's discuss this, because this could be the result of several things, and it also caused at least one major rift with a fandom, and that is the Simpsons line, because the Ultimate Simpson line already was on thin ice with some of the fans because of the lineups, but now it's just everyone's worst fear came to true. It's done. It's over with. They allegedly have 3 more waves that are going to ship because they already were paid for, and that's it. Nothing after that. Same thing with all the Disney stuff. Like, they have the Ultimates waves for Disney. Whatever's been pre-ordered will allegedly ship whenever it arrives, and that's it, unless Disney and them play ball in the future. So I wanted to get your guys' opinions. Where do you stand on this, as far as like, what do you feel happened, or the reasoning is behind it? How do you feel about it? Do you like, yeah.
Well, as like the least knowledgeable on the inner workings of like the toy industry, if I will, I guess my question is, with like these sort of I guess like deals or whatever, or agreements or whatnot, they don't have like a certain amount of time, or is it just like we can pull it whenever? Like, I'd imagine you'd make an agreement for like, all right, we're gonna have like a 5-year exclusivity on making things for the animated line of X. You know what I mean? Or is it just like, sure, you guys have freedom to do what you want until we say you can't? Because I mean, we don't know why Disney stopped the line, but it's just weird to think that like sales or something like that, or they're disappointed by like the line, or like, I'm curious. So it's more of that just doesn't explain it to me, in a sense. I mean, you may be able to make it make sense to me, but sure, the lines weren't like blowing the doors off, but like, would Disney have been like, hey, I want someone else to make our toys? You know what I mean?
Nate, would you like to explain it, or shall I?
Well, go ahead, because I kind of want to hear what you have to say on it, because I have my own thoughts, and I didn't watch the full video.
I only watched that part. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch the other stuff. I used the chapters and went straight to that because of the thumbnail and the comments in the video. So usually the idea behind licensing agreements for these toy companies is more so just like you're getting the license to be able to create these things. It may be for X amount of years, it may be for X amount of like waves, and I imagine they probably, since it's a legal contract, have some sort of wording in there that if you don't meet XYZ, they can pull the plug at any time if they want. Some sort of like, also saying that they have X amount of control, because if you remember, Krusty was originally depicted with having a cigarette, and the monkey was having a cigarette as well. And then the next, like a month or so later, when they revealed more pictures, those were both nixed. Probably Disney's involvement. So, especially like something as big as Disney, they probably put in the contracts that they get a lot of like last say on things. And I would have to assume that one of those is. Go ahead.
The licensor has absolute say
Yeah.
in everything, really, because I think a lot of people don't really seem to understand that little saying, especially at toy fairs and Comic Cons and things like that, that says pending licensor approval. Some people are so stupid that they think like, oh, they might make this if they're allowed to from this company. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You don't make toys on spec. Like, you have an agreement, then it gets approved, and those things can change as it goes through. So, sorry, didn't mean to fully interrupt.
That explains it perfectly. 100% that is what happens. I just figure there's probably some licenses that are a little more loosey-goosey than others, I would assume. I just figure Disney's probably got a very short leash compared to, some companies out there. Like, hell, Ninja Turtles at this point, they're just passing it around like it's nobody's business. Where DC is like no guns or gun-like things for the past like 5 years. So it really just kind of seems like it depends. But yeah, ultimately, at the end of the line, you have to get everything approved through the licensee or licensor, or whatever, whichever side it is, the person that you're paying the license from, and they have to say, "Yep, that's good. Send it to production." And like you have to do that pretty much every step of the way. Like if your prototypes, final samples, all that stuff. Otherwise, you're probably going to get in some deep shit. Nate, I want to hear. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, just off of that alone, what it sounds like is maybe Super 7 isn't at fault. But I'm curious to see what you guys would think. It just seems weird. Like if Disney has the overall control, who's to blame for these shitty waves of the Simpsons characters?
Well, Disney wouldn't have decided who's in the wave.
If they signed off on,
they would. They'd have been like, yeah, sure. But that doesn't mean that they chose those. Brian Flynn still would have been the person who chose it. And then Disney has okayed it. So Disney probably talked to him, explained his method to his madness, and showed him, look, it worked with the turtles. And they're like, okay. And obviously it didn't work with these because they got, 4 waves in and didn't have a single normal version of the main cast of The Simpsons. And they finally revealed them in the new Toy Collector magazine, and they never even made it to pre-order. So to me, it seems like they lost the license because it didn't perform well due to terrible management of what should be in each wave.
So I guess I'll kind of reel it back a little bit. Do we know that did the license get taken away? Or was it an agreement that they're like, yeah, we're good and we're not going to re-up? Because this has been, like, a lot of people don't, this has been in the works for a long time. The original Disney Ultimates wave with King John,
Pinocchio,
The Magician's Apprentice,
Mickey.
Yeah, and was it Pinocchio was in that first wave, or was he in the second wave?
He was in the first wave. I have it all written down right here.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
When did that
New year, new me.
When did that get put for pre-order?
Oh, that I don't have.
That
was 3 years ago because we were doing the news still.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was at least 2020 or 2021.
It's probably 2020.
At this point. So they probably had a multi-year agreement.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you what, with the exception of, I thought that the Disney Ultimates was a weird way to go. But this was still when Super 7 was initially first kind of branching out past Ninja Turtles, past its original slate. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And then that first wave, King John being in there. Okay, weird. Would have went with Robin Hood from the get-go because that's the one people know. But they went with King John instead. And they went with Pinocchio, which I guess is a heavy hitter. And The Magician's Apprentice, very cool. Very cool. That's an iconic. That
was the one winner in that wave. Really.
Yeah, that was hugely. Then the next wave did have Robin Hood in it, but people were very disappointed in how that turned out with everything that came with it. And then there was the things like the hippo from Fantasia. Listen, man, I like a lot of weird shit. All right. In my toys, whatever. That one was a reach. One, I don't know anyone who is like, oh yeah, Fantasia is my jam. Like, Night on Bald Mountain is the only part of that movie that everyone loves. Like, even the Magician's Apprentice part of it is not that great. Mickey's cool. The rest of it's not that great. First of all, have you guys even ever seen Fantasia all the way through?
I have, once.
Okay.
Maybe once. So we were kind of forced to watch it when we went to Disney. So
yeah. Okay. So, I mean, for anybody out there that's never seen it, it's like an hour and a half of animation and classical music. Like, that's it. There is no dialogue. There is no story. It was really cool back in the 40s, I would assume. Because they've never seen anything like that. I don't know. As a kid, it was missed on me. I thought it was, interesting. As I got older, I thought it was when I was all snooty and into film and all that stuff, I was like, oh yeah, Fantasia's amazing. It's the most amazing Disney movie ever made because it doesn't have a story. It's just classical music and animation. It's not that great. It's a beautiful piece of work, but it's not something I'm going to sit down and watch. No kid watches it, and I thought that was just a really bizarre choice to do. So that was like the first time where I was like, that's weird. Well, not the first time, but in that particular wave, I was like, or like that line, I was like, that's weird. But where I thought that they were excelling with the license was some of the more like high end stuff that we don't talk about here on the show. But like, so like, I remember they had like the Brave Taylor Mickey, which was like, I don't know, like 1.5 feet, 2 feet. They did a couple of things like that seemed really, really cool. I don't know all the things that they did with that, but I'm talking some really expensive, really high-end collectible stuff. I thought that was neat for the, big-time Disney collectors. Then you get into The Simpsons, which didn't used to be a Disney property, but, hey, everyone was so jazzed about getting X-Men back that we didn't give a shit about what happened to everything else. So this is another like just casualty of this merger. On one hand, it's easy to blame Super7. Like, oh yeah, you didn't make the family right away. But on one hand, I can see why they didn't want to as well. Because The Simpsons is such a massive cast of weird and bizarre characters, and a lot of those secondary characters are some of the things that people like the most. But herein again lies the problem. I used to be a huge Simpsons fan. Do you guys remember what year the Simpsons movie came out?
Was it like
98?
No.
2004. You're looking it up, aren't you?
Yes, because I don't remember.
Oh, that was a question. I thought this was like the numbers game.
I thought that was like
From
that too.
our
I was very confused.
Weekly live show.
No,
OnlyFigs.
it was not that. So the Simpsons movie was 2007.
Oh, I was close.
Oh,
2007. I actually thought it was 2010. But that's the thing, Jarmar. When I went and saw the movie, because I did go see the movie, I had not been watching the show in a few years. I had already been not watching the show for a few years. In 2007. I have not watched it since the movie came out. Movie was great, by the way. So that's like, I don't know, 17 years at this point. I haven't watched it. Who are these for? I think that the Simpsons fandom has shrunk, and those who still watch it, maybe some of them collect merchandise, but I don't know. You'd be hard pressed to top those Playmates figures from the early 2000s. Yeah, they may not have come with a great articulation, but they made almost everybody, and they can be found for like $10 a piece, other than the main family. So just in general, I thought that was a weird choice. And then the week that they were out, I was at a show, and people were already selling $10 less than what they were solicited for. I already knew that was in trouble. So for me, I have to think that this is a situation where Super7 was kind of like, you know what? Maybe we fucked up on this one, and maybe this was a little bit not as big as we thought. And I have to imagine, the licensing fees have to be outrageous and cut into their bottom line to a certain extent as well. That more so than, say, Hasbro, who they continue to work with, because this week they announced Dungeons and Dragons. Weird thing to do, considering that, I can't even get into an Ollie's right now because there are so many of the Hasbro Dungeons and Dragons figures.
Yeah.
Like I literally can't push through the doors, but they're like, yeah, we should make those too.
Yeah, I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. Like Hasbro already did a shit job at it. Why would they think that they are going to?
The figures look better. Like they look tons better. But my thing is now I've already got the team. At this point, I'm probably going to get those extra characters because they'll fit in with my display nicely. But again, they're doing the Super7 thing, which I understand. But we've got 2 members of the team in the first wave. Those are not going to come out for a year. So, realistically, depending on how often they solicit these, we're not even going to get a full team of these for 3 years.
Yeah.
See, now, but them with that, at least they're doing 2 members of the team in the
No,
first
no,
wave.
you're right.
With this, they went through 4 waves of Simpsons. Not a single normal member of the
Do
family.
you have the full list?
I
there?
do. So we'll go through
Wait.
it.
Can you please
Okay,
run down
go
the
ahead.
Simpsons waves
Go
for
ahead.
me?
So wave 1, we had Space Homer, Mo, Poochie, Robot Scratchy, Robot Itchy. Wave
Those
2.
were bizarre.
Yes.
With the exception, okay, Poochie is awesome. But Poochie was also one episode. Like, that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
That is a deep, but it's awesome. And then you have Mo, who was a
Regular.
Yeah,
but
I feel like
still,
that Mo is like a
yeah.
regular.
Like he was
Well,
like
the
decent,
fact
but
that you had Robot Itchy and Scratchy.
not to mention
Not
Space
even-
Homer. Not even normal Homer. Space Homer.
Right. No, I know. Space Homer. That's a whole other thing in itself. Yes.
So wave 2, we have Duffman, Krusty, Bartman, and Hank Scorpio. I don't know who the fuck Hank Scorpio even is.
If I did, I don't remember because I don't
And
know either.
Duffman's
Bartman, though,
kinda
awesome
cool.
choice. Duffman is cool. But my whole thing on any of these is I'm not going to spend $55 on them.
Yeah.
Right.
So then wave 3 it gets a little dicey with some prices too. So first we have Mr. Burns, Ralph, and then we have Kang and is it Kudos or Kodos? The aliens.
I always say Kodos, but
Okay. Those
it's been
two,
a while since I've heard them said. My biggest memory of them is from the game. So
That's fair. So those two though are $75 each. So they're $20 more.
yeah.
And then wave 4 is
And
radioactive.
like Ralph is like tiny.
Yeah, and he's still 55.
Right.
So wave 4 is Radioactive Man, Dredrick Tatum, Devil Flanders, and Moo Moo Homer.
Yeah.
So you get a
So our
second Homer,
second
and
Homer,
still not
but-
in his normal
Yeah.
get up. And like just looking through this, like I mean, each wave might like the first 2 waves at least have Mo and Krusty. Those are, you know, justifiably like decent choices that are of normal characters.
Yeah, Krusty's.
But
Of course.
like beyond that, everything else is a variation of a main family member or like someone who is kind of out there that isn't going to sell nearly as well.
And that's the thing. Even with the main characters in these are all deep cut versions, and I respect them for that because they're giving fans potentially something they've never had before in their collection. But again, this is a smaller audience than I think.
It's smaller than
Anyone
Turtles
realized.
when it comes to like collectors, that's for sure.
Excuse you.
We're talking like
Yeah.
a percentage.
Yeah.
Of Turtles.
So
is
like you
one of,
can't
like.
you can't take the same route.
Yeah,
then.
formula.
Like
But
Right.
that's
That's
not
way
even the same
riskier.
route though. Like at least with Turtles, you had Leonardo in the first wave. You
Raph.
had regular
Yeah, Raph.
Leonardo.
Yeah.
Raph was
There's
first.
no.
Leo
So
was
these
second.
were all deep cuts, even with their family, even with the
Mhm.
family. These are deep cuts.
Yeah, this would have been like if you would have had, we'll say, Surf and Mikey in wave 1, and no other
Right.
turtle.
Right.
I mean,
Yes, we know.
I would've
But
been cool.
I want to hear it. You don't get to be like, oh, this is great when
But-
you refuse to pay full price for them. Okay.
that's
But-
not necessarily true.
But the keeping with that though, that's what they were going for was the Jarmar like Simpson fan.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But how many Jarmars are there? As we've noticed,
There's 1 out of 3
So
here.
what?
they're very unique.
Yeah.
This feels weird.
So
Oh, was that all the waves?
that's all the way they. So they
Okay,
did.
that's-
They
I just
did in the
wanted to
Toy
make
Collector
sure you-
magazine reveal Maggie, Lisa, and Marge, but
Mhm.
those never made it to pre-order.
I
So-
Were they
I just don't
regular?
want-
Or were those
They were
the
regular.
Sunday best? Okay.
They were regular. Those were because they finally had given up on the whole. He was finally like, okay, here's what you want. Here's your family. So that's what we were gonna get, and then now we're not getting them at all. Which that
I
is-
just don't want to. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't want I feel like Nate, you kind of were going a little bit in the direction of where I was thinking of it's easy to just say oh Super7, you fucked this up. You guys suck. You keep stepping on the rake, but also
Stepping on the rake.
I don't want
That's a
to
great
like.
Simpsons reference, by the way.
Oh, I wasn't even trying for
You
that.
didn't
Yeah,
even
you
try.
know.
You didn't do that.
No, not at all. Not at
Oh,
all.
the Cape Fear episode in season 4, when Krusty keeps stepping on the rakes and it hits him in the face. That's one of my favorite episodes ever made. And it's one of the funniest scenes, I think, in television history. So
I wish I
next
could take
time,
credit for
next say that you planned that
Yeah.
because that's incredible.
I feel like it's easy. It's low hanging fruit for us to say that. Is that another reference?
Sure.
No, I don't.
I mean,
but
it's Simpsons, so probably.
yeah, it's true. That's true. But I would almost kind of like, sure, is it like silly the way this was rolled out? Absolutely. But also, everything you guys just stated, the collector audience for this is probably very, very small. So try and get, and this is their thinking. I'm just making this up. This is my thinking of what they were thinking. Let's try and do some of these random things that will get people who maybe aren't like super hardcore in The Simpsons, but like you said, Rake episode. Oh, I remember that. Or I don't remember Space Homer, but like it convinces people out there. Oh, this is that one episode. Wait, blah blah blah. And like, oh, I want to pick that up. I'm not looking to complete an entire like library of all of these figures and have everything, but like having that ability to like pick and choose because there's already going to be a smaller like market or audience. I kind of think maybe that was a little bit of the approach. The only thing that goes against that is obviously we've seen this pattern before with other things that they've done, but I don't want to necessarily say that was a terrible idea to do it that way. Because a couple of these, like, I mean, again, I'm a very entry-level casuals fan of The Simpsons. Saw Duffman, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Now, again, to Nate's point, $55, it's kind of high. If it was like $30, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I would like to have like, there's a lot of things I think going into play, and I don't want to just say that it was because they made a bad decision on the characters. Is it dumb that they didn't have all the characters? Sure. But I don't necessarily say that. I don't want to say that was like the absolute worst idea. Maybe even picking The Simpsons to begin with is probably the bad idea.
Yeah.
That's where like, I am more thinking too, because like this is now like what? It's 30.
It's been so long.
Season that it's in. I mean, this is a property that's older or as old as a lot of people who would potentially be buying those. Or like myself, I mean, I was 10 years old when that show first started. I loved it, but that interest has changed. Like it's waned big time.
Yeah.
So I do want to address a couple things that Nate brought up, since he said like it could have been more on Disney's side of things. So one thing that makes me think, because there's actually two things that make me think it's not. The first one is that in the interview with Brian Flynn, he made it sound like that Disney had unrealistic expectations. So that to me says there was something where they either wanted him to produce more stuff, or the line wasn't selling enough, or there was the fact that there was some sort of expectations involved makes me think that something was not, Disney wasn't happy about something. Or maybe there was like some behind the scenes of him trying to like, he wanted to keep making weird characters and they're like, no, let's get the normal ones out or something. He didn't want to do that. And the second thing that makes me think that it isn't necessarily Disney's fault is the fact that why would you as a company decide to say, oh, you know what, I changed my mind, I don't want to pay for this license anymore, right after you just announced 3 members of the family that everyone was excited about? Like, people were finally like excited about this line more than they were before.
I mean, I can answer that question because sales were low.
But that just comes back to, but that comes back to, it's their fault, because since the beginning, everyone I've ever heard talk about that line.
I said that it wasn't necessarily Disney pulling the license away. It could have been Super7 saying, we don't want to do this anymore. They made this decision. They thought they could do this. It wasn't what they expected on either party. And so they thought they should part ways.
Maybe, but I feel like you don't make that decision after you've already done 3 pre-orders and announce a new wave.
Hey, you would think that a company wouldn't cancel a movie that they already shot, but here we are.
Well,
There's
Brian
a
Flynn
Batgirl
isn't
movie out there.
Brian Flynn isn't getting tax cuts for canceling Waves of Toys.
Yeah, I don't think either is
Or-
Warner Brothers, but I don't understand how that works. But I'm just saying, in general, sometimes difficult decisions have to be made even while things are in motion. So is it worth, you have 4 Waves that did X amount of business. Is it worth continuing paying the licensing fee even if we are bringing out the family when it's already done this much? And let's talk about the fact that Super 7 has gotten beat up here recently, and Brian did address a lot of this on the part of the video that I watched because of so much stuff hitting Ross or Ollie's or clearance and things like that. And basically how he talked about it was that people ordered it, people canceled it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's so much of a certain product. And that's the dangerous game that they play with allowing Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, places like that to have orders. Because you may not remember this, but early on when Super 7 first were doing Masters of the Universe, Big Bad Toy Store had a markup on them.
Mm-hmm.
They were $35 on Super 7's website. They were $50 on Big Bad Toy Store. So the whole point was that you would buy from Super 7 and orders would be more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And now orders are not as accurate because people are getting frustrated. Waves are taking too long to ship. And I'm not saying that this is anyone's one particular fault. I do think they tend to announce too much, but who knows where that, we're not privy to their inner workings and, company. Well, I'm privy to all that information. I have.
BFFs.
So we don't know. So, I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong, that it could have been Disney that pulled it. It could have been Super 7 that decided they didn't want it. It could be a little bit of both. I think it's just fair to look at all angles.
Mm-hmm.
And also Disney could have just been like, fuck them kids and done,
True. I guess another thing mentioning like he did an interview prior as well where he discussed the whole like clearance thing, and he mentioned that the hype got real big real fast, so some of these companies ordered a lot of product. So like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth ordered more than what their pre-orders were. So that's another reason why there was so much there that they're clearancing out, because they were expecting like, oh, Turtles did well, this did well, so on and so forth. We need to make sure we have a bunch of this because it sells. And then it didn't. And it also doesn't help that, stuff gets delayed over and over and over again. So that makes people less excited about it. We've talked about this before. Jarmar even has mentioned in the past that like the longer you wait for things, the less excited about it, to the point where you're just like, oh, maybe I don't need this. It gives you it gives you too much time to rethink your decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that they have to do that to an extent, but it also can be detrimental.
That's the danger of that business model.
Mm-hmm.
This is still, for the most part, ultimates are made to order. Whose order, we don't know. But, where, things like reaction are made first and go out that way. Because there's a lot less involved in that. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see, too. Because then that does, there was some Simpsons reaction. There were some other, there a lot of
Treehouse of Horror
Disney
stuff? There was some, like they did some of the main characters like Mickey, Goofy, and all of them, and Donald in that new like animated form. And I feel like they've done. Isn't Roger Rabbit Disney?
At this point,
probably. It's Touchstone. It is a
yes, because they do a Roger Rabbit reaction line. There's a few.
That sucks that we'll never get a Roger Rabbit Ultimate, because that would have been pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not a whole line, but like just a Roger Rabbit figure or a Jessica Rabbit, that would have been great. Brian, call me. I mean, really, seriously, I got some great ideas.
So before I move on to my next question, I do want to also mention because we discussed the Simpsons pretty heavily, and we mentioned
Yes.
the Disney Ultimates wave like briefly, but these are what's still on the way allegedly for Disney, along with like the one that we already got, actually two we already got, because you mentioned Wave 1, Sorcerer Mickey, Prince John, Pinocchio. Wave 2 is Robin Hood, Hippo, Mad Hatter, and Alice. So Wave 3 is Queen of Hearts, Big Bad Wolf, Alligator from Fantasia, and Stitch. Wave 4, they finally decided to go with like, here's a cohesive line of characters all from the same property with Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack, Sally, and Oogie Boogie.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
I did forget about that. That's going to be interesting because now that is once again another Nightmare Before Christmas line that is not going to be continuing.
Yep. And
So
my go ahead, actually.
I was just going to say, I think the only company that's put out a cohesive line has been Diamond Select on those.
Diamond Select don't give a fuck. They'll just make whatever.
Right.
So my I guess last question really is, do we think that these figures for these remaining waves across all the different like Ultimates, Reaction, anything that's been announced that's Disney related, do we think it actually gets like released?
I do, only because I think that is part of the agreement that they were paid for. They were solicited and ordered. I think they will come out. I would say this, though, with that. If you are at all interested in them and you did not pre-order them and they come out, I'd buy them, because I will bet dollars to donuts that they are in a very small amount. I don't know if that's a real saying.
Dollars to donuts? I mean, it's fitting for Simpsons.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just on top of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
heard that
I
too.
basically just echo what you said, Nate, is, of course, if they choose to release it at this point, manufacturing costs and stuff like that aside, they've already kind of like, have this agreement, so why not?
Otherwise, they'd have to refund, because you can't. Yeah, you can't do that unless Disney says, hey, you can't make these, but
Right.
they would still have to refund.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody wants to do that.
Here's my concern,
Lay it on
especially with both these being so weird waves of just random characters. And people were already hesitant to back the line, obviously, because they were afraid it wasn't going to survive because they weren't getting the characters they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people canceling pre-orders.
Through places like Big Bad and Entertainment Earth, absolutely.
You don't think anyone who ordered direct is going to cancel?
You can't.
You can't, but it doesn't mean you can't try.
Doesn't mean you can't try, but I've heard of people who tried and it didn't go well. Like, it's pretty much like up front, these sales are, these orders are final, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you can try what you want, but chances are pretty good, not through Super7, that you're going to get your money back. Any place that allows you to do a pretty hassle-free cancellation, which, again, that is your business model. Big Bad has to plan for it. Both of you yuckleheads that order shit and cancel it as soon as you can, that you have accounts that you've been shut down from.
Not shut down, just put last in line.
I thought one of you got an account like you can't do it no more. Like,
No.
they told you you're not allowed. I thought for sure.
I mostly joke about it just because like they're like,
so no, I have two accounts. I have my original one that got put last in line, and then I got the one that anything that I am trying to get fast for reviews that I don't cancel things on.
I just think it's funny that you just almost got offended, that I even suggested that was a real thing, and yet you do it all the time.
Because I was just like, what do you mean? Who the fuck gets blocked from canceling pre-orders or ordering things from Big Bad Toy Store?
You've canceled a ton, though.
I have, but I guarantee there's people who cancel way more than me.
Oh, sure. I'm sure there is. But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably going to be the case there.
Yeah. I just worry that a lot of people are going to cancel these pre-orders, and there's probably going to be a lot of people who reach out trying to cancel them direct. And I just hope that it doesn't negatively impact Super 7 as a company too much, because I don't want to see them get stuck with, crates and crates of these figures that nobody wants.
Here would be my rebuttal on that, and I don't know, but that is places like Entertainment Earth, Nerdzoic. I don't know if he carries Super 7.
He does very, very little, I believe.
But I think once you order those from Super 7, that's on you. So I don't know that Super 7 is necessarily going to get stuck with this.
So my thought process is, at least with like the big two, Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store, if they came to you and was like, hey, half of our pre-orders have been canceled on this, so we want to reduce our order or something like that, are you really going to tell them no, fuck you? Or risk your biggest customer at that point?
But I feel like that would already be worked out. Like, that's not going to be something that they would go into it in their 5th, 6th year of partnership. Be like, hey, these Simpson figures, I can return these, right? Like, I feel like that would be worked out already. So I don't know. I
guess we should have a bit nerdy on the episode so we could hear a little more of the logistics on it. Because I just, my worry is that one of the big two might be like, oh, well, half of our pre-orders just got canceled, so like, we're getting stuck with these.
Look at what Entertainment Earth just recently did with G.I. Joe, though. That was their doing, to sell them for $10.
Yeah, which that was ones they already had and they thought it was going to sell, though. That was not a line that literally was just announced being dead.
Right, but I'm just saying, it's still a line that didn't perform well.
Mm-hmm. But
so
yeah, I don't know.
That they ordered.
There's a lot of factors in it that I'm curious to see how all the dominoes land, because it's definitely
I think ultimately the one that's going to hurt the most will be Simpsons. I think that the Disney ones are those were so pick and choose anyway. Like even when I originally had them in order, which I've never received any of them because I canceled them. Because I ultimately decided I did not want them, because I ordered I ordered the King John because I was anticipating Robin Hood, and then Robin Hood came out and I ordered it, and then like that first wave got delayed so heavily that I ended up just canceling all of it, and it was a good thing I did, because I don't need them. I liked Robin Hood as a movie, but
I was holding out hope that maybe one day we'd get a Darkwing Duck Ultimate figure, because he was doing all these obscure things, but I was just like, I'd be 82 by the time it comes out, really.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, like that, and like a really cool classic DuckTales line, but that's could be something for another company to do. Who knows? Maybe Jada Toys is picking up that license.
Ooh.
And they're gonna,
could you imagine Jada Toys taking over like Simpsons and just Disney?
No, I don't want them. No, I don't. No.
Just
no more
leave Simpsons alone.
They've had their chance. Leave.
So hear me out though. Like, this is like saying like, oh, we don't want Batman figures because we had 5 points of articulation Batman figures 20 years ago. Like the ones you're talking about, the Playmates one, were good, and you got a lot of options. But like compared to action figures today, they aren't.
I just don't see the Simpsons still being that license. It's
the
not
fact that it did well enough that they did they pre-ordered 4 waves. That seems like they were optimistic.
Michael, you just stated you spent most of the show saying why.
Oh, I'm still saying it didn't do as well as it needed to, but I'm saying that. But think about $55 for a bunch of side characters, or $25 and you get the fucking main characters in the first couple waves.
If they would have brought out Bartman, the first wave, I'd have bought that $55. Fuck it, I'd have bought a Bartman.
But what about if you got first wave Bartman for $25?
Oh. But not from Jada.
Really?
Because I want them to do Darkwing Duck and DuckTales.
I mean, they could still do that too.
Let's do the Duck television.
But I don't know
I'm down for it.
With it.
Give me Scrooge.
You wouldn't buy any of the Simpsons though.
I know I wouldn't.
So then why would you want Jada to make Simpsons?
I'm just saying that would be a good alternative for those people who do want this. There are people out there who actually wanted this line and they wanted
But
figures,
Jada
but
is not gonna make them the same size.
well, yeah, no, they're not going to
Oh, yeah,
continue
they'd
the
be
Super
bland.
7
Like-
one. They're going to make them a normal 112
Well, then
scale.
that's just gonna piss people off even more.
No,
They're
it's
not
not
gonna be in
because
scale with Playmates.
they've
They're
got-
not gonna be in scale with Super 7. Listen, when McFarlane came out with DC Universe stuff, people just bitched out
But
the
that's
wazoo
that's
because
that's
it
a
wasn't
bit
gonna
different
fit.
though. DC is more cohesive with other lines versus
is.
Super 7's like
And I'm
Simpsons.
reaching, mostly just because I want you to be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what should Super 7 grab then?
nothing. They need to reduce the amount of shit they're putting out and focus and realign and get shit actually in people's hands before they decide that they're going to do more properties.
Yeah, I can't
That's
disagree
fair.
with that. I was
Nickelodeon.
really disappointed in
So
their Thundercats announcement this week. That's a super weak wave. I just they're limping this one along, and
Yeah. I feel like we're almost there. The end
like
with Thundercats, you know what I mean?
like the thing is there's so many other characters that can be done, things that never got made into toys, certain
Yeah.
factions, all this stuff. But then, we get Little Kid Lion-O that was in one episode. We get Snarfer that is an easy reuse of Snarf that was in one episode. We get the Ghostly Dream Mumra that's just a clear version of the Mumra we got. And then we get the weird Grasshopper guy that I think was in like one episode. Cool for him. He's the only unique figure out of all of them, but everybody kind of went, who? So, yeah. But I do agree with Michael that they do need to refocus. I really do question this constant, let's do what Hasbro has already done. I think the first thing they should have done with that Dungeons and Dragons wave, honestly, was maybe only put one of the core members in and done like Tiamat or some of the other villains that were in the show and some of the other creatures and things like that could have complemented the Hasbro line that you can get at any Ollie's at any point in time. And I mean, when's the last time a Ninja Turtle wave? And I know that once it gets to the factory and stuff like that, but when's the last time one of those Ninja Turtle waves actually came out? Like, what was the last one?
I don't even remember at this point. They have so many that I can't keep track.
Like,
I have no clue what wave we're on.
Has any of the
we had the not Sergeant Bananas, but
I don't think that ever came out.
I know, but what wave was that? That was like the one that was up, right?
God, here, let me go on to Big Bad Toy Store and find out.
Because like,
Not a
did
sponsor.
any of the turtle disguise?
It can be.
not disguised turtles, but the like that second wave of turtles that had the Space Raph and the Samurai Leo and the disguised Don.
The Samurai Leo came.
Ray Fillet came out, right?
Ray Fillet, yeah.
So that was wave 5.
What was after that?
Yeah.
Wave
So what was wave 6?
6. Jeez, they have so many.
Had...
Wave 6 was Surfin' Mikey, so that came out.
Okay.
Wave 7 was Triceraton, Sergeant Bananas, and
that one hasn't come out.
Metalhead, Mikey, and
that's the one that we're waiting for.
Yeah, that one currently shows as January 2024.
So that was wave 7.
All right, so it's only a couple.
7.
So it'll be out in a couple weeks.
Technically, only 2 waves after the 4 turtles were done have come out.
Yep, and those. And think about it, Raph came out what 2 years ago.
Yeah, I've had those for so long. Now, granted, I didn't open them all, but they're still down there. But that's been at least 2 years since I gave up on that line, and there's only been 2 waves since.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of alarming.
And they've got wave 8
how many
also
have they
announced?
Because with the Rat King redo, right?
Yeah.
Is that 8 or is that 9?
That would be 9, I believe, because wave 8 is Shredder with his scoliosis cured.
Mm-hmm.
One of the frogs, Space Raph, I believe, and Robot Rocksteady.
Okay.
Don't see a. I don't know if they've
like
done
what
Predators
wave
for
is
wave
Duncan?
9.
Duncan Donnie in?
Yeah, that's
Which wave is
12.
punk rock Donnie in? Like,
Yeah.
so.
So yeah, just
But they got
pare
the
down
van
what they're
out.
doing.
That's kind of impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm shocked that ever came out, to be
But that
honest.
took 3 years?
It was pretty close.
I think that was 2.
2? Yeah.
I no, because we talked about it on the news.
No,
I could swear we did.
one.
Or no, we talked about it early on the podcast. So that would have been, I can pull that up real easy.
So maybe just lower what they're just focused. That's a good thing for them to do. I only said that just because they're kind of seem to be at least okay with Nickelodeon, and being the holders of the Turtles, and I just like a '90s Nicktoons kind of line because that's perfect. You can just do random characters from that whole fire session of cartoons coming out at that time, like Wild Thornberries, Rugrats, shit like that. The problem would be pricing, in my opinion, because obviously these couldn't be like really big characters. They don't need a ton of accessories, stuff like that.
Oh, but they could though. Think about all like the cool toys.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
literally
that's true.
Toys and like ways to make up like the environment could be.
That's true. That's true. They could see something like that. But I mean, that would be fun enough. I'm thinking of things that like you don't have to try and complete. That would be, fun enough to get excited about. Oh man,
I do think they should go back
Arnold,
to some of like their earlier stuff, like when they did Ren and Stimpy and Voltron and Conan and things like that, where it was just 1, 2, 3 figures.
Yeah,
and let's stabilize and
Yeah. So as far as from the podcast aspect, that was episode 3, which was 2 years ago, roughly.
Okay.
So
that's about right.
So considering this is episode 100.
This is 100?
This is 100.
We didn't do anything?
This is 100.
Anything special?
We don't even have hats.
No hats?
I unfortunately, I had to change up the schedule because this happened.
Well,
and
somebody got a new webcam for the 100th episode, but the rest of us...
Well, that's not my fault. You were too busy at work, so you didn't redo your studio.
You didn't either.
I mean, I technically did.
I just want to push them all down.
Do it.
Push them all
Make
down.
number 100. Number 100.
You know how
memorable.
much this one sells for right now? Like I saw one in the box at a show for $400. You gotta be.
I can't tell if he muted his
Maybe that's a whole episode of itself. But when new shit starts getting more expensive than the original vintage version, that's crazy to me. That's crazy.
That's
I mean, kind of makes sense if it's not in print anymore.
Still.
What?
No, like if a newer figure goes out of print, it would still go up in value, and it would technically, in theory, be better than the original. So
it's crazy to me that when something goes higher value than a vintage counterpart, because even though you say ridiculous things like calling something retro and not vintage, there's way no. Never mind.
Yeah, we can have an episode.
We'll do an episode about that retro versus vintage.
Shut the fuck
do we have any Patreon?
We do.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah. Thanks, Jarmar. All right. All right. This one was jostled around a little bit timing wise, so we only have one. But this is our good friend, Suck My Taunts. All right. Again, I would like to just stress that these are not the opinions of Modern Toy Fair and their respective blah blah blah, and these opinions are strictly their own. Okay.
Fair.
The only thing surprising about this announcement is that Super7 is still in business at all. Like, they make horrible decisions. Like, not putting out the core family members in regular looks in first waves. Then blame the fans for not understanding how collecting works. Please inform the rule breakers, Nate and Jarmar. The top 10 figures of the year list cannot have canceled figures that never came out on them. I don't want to see any unreleased Simpson figures on future lists. Also, congrats on your 100th episode. Sort of. I'm not sure if the sort of is...
The sort of is because the Patreon exclusive episode where we discussed if this is technically the 100th episode, because episode 2 never made it to...
I didn't know if it was congrats, sort of.
Oh! No. It's a reference to the fact that episode 100 is 100 in number, but not 100 in produced episodes.
I do have one question, Sukma. Bruce.
Bruce.
Yeah, his name is Bruce.
Oh.
I've decided.
Okay. I was like,
when did you
first off, we're doxing people now?
I don't know anyone under the age of 60 named Bruce anymore.
Fair.
I have an uncle named Bruce, but I have no friends.
I don't know anyone. Well, no, that's a lie. I do know someone under 60 named Bruce, but it's only because his father is a huge Batman mark. One of my old managers from GameStop named his son Bruce, and he is in high school.
Thanks. I'd name him Wayne instead.
Well, his middle name's Wayne.
Okay. I just really quickly here, Bruce. I just got to know, how did I break the rules?
That's what I was confused about, too.
He said, no. I thought he said rule breakers Jarmar, Michael.
No, he said Nate.
No, Nate and Jarmar.
Oh.
He said rule breakers Nate and Jarmar. I didn't put a fucking truck on it that I didn't own.
I didn't either. It was a van.
I'm
just saying.
So, Bruce, get at me about how I'm a rule breaker. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I just don't remember.
I have a feeling that he probably just
is used to
slipped and said your name instead of mine, because he's so used to picking on you that he just instinctively put your name there.
Also, just to clarify, there was no real rules. And Michael, before the show recorded, just to have this out there, I was like, so can we just do whatever? I don't do whatever you want to put on.
I did. I did specifically say, I said, as long as it came out this year and it's not a re-release, you're good.
That was it. And that was partially a protest, because I feel like if we are toy collectors and we buy something, it should be our favorite purchases of the year, not the best toys of the year.
But you didn't buy
our favorite purpose. Exactly. That's why this list was.
He's saying it was in protest of me saying that
you purchased.
Yeah.
Why are we reviewing toys of 2023 when we should be reviewing purchases? We do a weekly purchase show.
That's what weekly purchase is for us to go over things we purchase. Why would we do that?
It's a culmination of that.
Well, if we didn't take a fucking month break from doing the live stream, we could have done that as an episode at the end of the year where we went over our favorite purchases of the year as well.
No, I don't want to make two lists.
The favorite purchases would have been the same as my top 10, because I only put shit on there I bought and I opened.
That is a rule that you have put on yourself.
Yeah, that's on you.
Yeah.
Well, you're the Mr. fucking...
it is in my contract for the 2024 list that's the rules.
For you?
For everyone.
For everybody?
Purchases.
Or I don't show up for 2024.
Should be purchases. Well, if we do that, that restricts heavily on what I have, because some things I purchase that are re-released, and I can't put that on my list.
No, yes, you can.
No, you can't. It's not a new
24. And you opened it, and you love it.
It's not. It's not from that year, though.
I don't give a shit. At least it's something he owns.
Michael only has control in this because he doesn't buy anything that's like vintage or re-release. He only purchases new stuff.
I buy re-release Moffat figures all the time.
That's because you sold.
Well, then you should put that on your list because you bought it.
I'm not going to, because it didn't come out this year. It just got re-released this year.
Re-released it.
And this is why we have a turtle van on my top 23, because of these ancillary rules that don't make sense. I can't put things that I purchase.
We're fired up here again in about 5 minutes when we do the podcast suggestions. So,
oh my, in that case, I will start wrapping this up for us so we can get there.
Yeah,
let us know in the comments below. What do you think happened? What are your opinions on the matter? Are you upset about the Simpsons line getting canceled? Yes, the episode was about Super 7. Let us know if you pre-ordered the Simpsons line. Are you keeping those pre-orders? I want to know all this in the comments below, because I'm very curious to see how this is affecting the community and everything like that.
First of all, if you bought a Simpsons figure, let us know.
Yeah, that's actually
Any
Which
Simpsons
one?
figure.
What your thought process was? If you thought you were gonna be supporting it to get more
It
figures,
wasn't on sale.
Was it what, full price, or did you buy it for $20? All of that, let us know, because I'm very, very curious to see who's buying this line, if it really is as detrimental as I think it is. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps us out here on the channel and gets you much toy related content in your feed. We've got reviews, how to pose videos. We've got weekly live stream, weekly podcast, and the weekly toy hunts. You can also check us out.
Tons of toy hunts.
Yes.
Toy hunts by the pound.
You check us out Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Modern Toy Fair.
That's not a lie.
If you are already a fan and you would like to help support us, you can go over to patreon.com/Modern Toy Fair. We have a bunch of tiers of different rewards. You can get episode input, input on the channel. There's physical prints of the photos I take. There's early access to videos, all sorts of stuff. Link in the description below.
There's even now even juicier rewards, creamier rewards.
Oh yes, we also have exclusive episodes of the podcast as well. Link in the description below. A couple free trials and some of the tiers if you want to try it before you buy it. Nate, well, you can check out Jarmar over on TikTok at Jarmar_games. Nate, what do you got for us?
I've got again, coming from Super7. We have the new podcast called Disgusting Rule Breakers. In this titalizing, is that how you say tit?
I thought you said this
I don't think
Tits Out
I've
podcast. I was like, what
Yeah,
the fuck?
in this Tits Out podcast, exploration of bad behavior, we discuss people who don't play by the rules. From illicit drug dealers to human trafficking, this podcast covers all types of bad behaviors. On the first episode, we cover toy podcasters who cheat on top 10 lists by including figures they don't own, including figure multi-packs, and even including vehicles. One podcaster has the gall to include a vehicle he doesn't own and never even saw in person.
Do we know that for sure?
Yeah, we do.
You said it.
Yep. And we also don't know anyone who actually bought it, so...
Nope.
And you don't like to go to conventions with us, so...
Guess what? You know what would have been on my list? I would have had the Legends of Korra Nindoroid that I purchased. Couldn't put that on my list because it came out and it was re-list. I don't know.
Nope.
I purchased it in 2023, but I can't have that on my list. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it's okay. It's cool. So you get a turtle van. You get a turtle van.
Nope, I accepted that Nindroid way more.
Next year, we'll make it a legitimate list of rules then, so that way everyone is appeased.
No, because at the end of the day,
your
you
ass.
still have control over the rules. And my only thing is I feel like it should be purchased.
It's not purchases, though, because it's not...
It's purchases.
Literally, that
Everybody
is
does
the
the top
one
10
thing
list.
that is the least
Everyone
respected
does a top
in the
10
toy
list.
community is if you put shit that you purchased that's old.
Cut the show. I was gonna say.
I mean, I would agree. Like, I don't think it should be like
It's stupid.
it shouldn't be any vintage figures that you bought that year. It shouldn't be purchases, but it should be your top 10 favorite new figures that you owned that year, that came out that year. Although I got one figure that supposedly came out this past year, but it was on the line, so fuck it. I'm including it next year if it makes it. So you guys won't know any better anyway.
This is completely separate. But again, it's just hard for me to wrap my head around this. Maybe because I'm not plugged into the toy community, the toy industry at large. But I am plugged into the gaming community and the gaming industry at large. And every year we have like a game of the year. And the game of the year is something that like everyone has kind of like culminated this idea of these games being the game of the year. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if I played a game and it touched me in a way that I just absolutely am enamored with that game, who's to say that's not my game of the year? Like, we have this overall ranking of all of these things. Let other people do that. Why do we have to be the same thing? I don't know. That is how I see it. But it's fine. It's cool. I'll put... And if I buy a 4-pack of turtles, they're all going to be considered
I'm with them on that.
same. That makes no sense. Why would I say
Pick
4
one.
different turtles? They're all the same.
They all have the same UPC.
So pick your
They
favorite.
have the same UPC.
I did.
One UPC.
I did. I just said the 4-pack and I showed off Donatello because Donatello is my favorite figure. But that's it. I attest.
Hopefully see you next week. Same toy time, same Toy Fair channel.
Yeah, hopefully see you next week. It's questionable.
Thank you for watching.
To do it now.
All right. A huge thank you to our Patreon members. Is that what it is? Are they members or are they followers? Sukma Tank, Jason Miller, Havin Hernandez, Aaron Samples, the 45th Lyric, Christopher, and last but not least, Boogeyman 13.